that's a question that urban economists have been thinking about for at least 100 years, I would say. For a long time, the main answer was, okay, firms need to be productive to pay higher wages. Cities offer benefits related to agglomeration economy. Sometimes they're in good places, close to a natural harbor. All of that allows firms to be productive and pay high wages. And because workers obviously like to earn high wages, they move to cities. Now, in the past 50 years, I would say, the focus of research has shifted a little bit from the production to the consumption side. So nowadays we also think about, do workers actually want to live in cities? Do they even have a willingness to pay maybe to live in cities? So I think it's fair to say that part of the answer is that a high quality of life that cities can offer also attracts many workers into cities. And maybe the second part of the answer is increasingly perceived as being more important. Do you agree?
Exactly, right. But empirically, it has been very hard to find like that cities are more attractive places to live, like at least in the literature for a long time. And I think this is where our paper really kicks in, because we show that maybe part of the, this fact that we did not really see in the data, at least, that cities are more nice places to live, might be that maybe quality of life has not been measured correctly or entirely correctly in the literature. And I think what we want to do in this paper is give a new measure of quality of life. And with this new measure, we show that, I mean, also quality of life is higher in cities and not only productivity, I would say. Yeah, so for a long time, it has been known that it's very difficult to measure basically all amenities in a city because there are so many, and you don't, especially also do not really know what is their impact on quality of life as a whole. So what has been done for a long time is looking at differences in wages and living costs between different places to check out quality of life that kind of equalizes real wages across places. And that has been the main model for a very long time. But I think what we are doing a bit differently in this paper is looking also at other frictions that have not been previously covered in the literature.
I agree. I think maybe we could even go one step back and say that, I mean, one of the distinctive features of our approach to measuring quality of life is that it is objective. Because, I mean, you have many city rankings in the news. You have various newspapers and magazines that come up with their quality of life rankings. How do they do it? I mean, the researcher think about, okay, what matters to us? And then someone says, okay, I want to put emphasis on schools, and the other one says, okay, I want to put emphasis on good transport connectivity. Someone else says, okay, I mean, rent should be affordable, and then they collect these data, assign weights, and come up with an index. But that's very subjective. Our index is objective because we collect hard data and then infer indirectly from the information on wages, on rents, but also on the number of people who choose to live in places, what the quality of life must be, assuming that people are rational, right? So that's clearly the innovative feature of our approach.
Yes, so as I was mentioning in the literature, the whole model or framework kind of relies on the fact that people are very mobile between places, and then also the trade of goods is very mobile. And what we want to do in this paper is also considering frictions to mobility and trade. In particular, there might be reasons why people are not or are reluctant to move to new places, maybe because they have social ties, their family, their partner still lives in a place, or they have ties that kind of connect them to a place. Or maybe they have idiosyncratic preferences for living in a given region relative to another one. And on the good side, what we look at is that there is also costs associated with trading goods between places, and some goods are non-tradable whatsoever. And all of this changes also the cost of living between different places, which we incorporate in our model.
Yeah, I think our key argument is that the standard approach in literature that has been applied by economists for, let's say, 30, 40 years is prone to measurement error, right? Because you do not take into account that people will only move to a place if the quality of life difference really is large. Otherwise, they wouldn't move there, right? If you don't take into account that in your index, you're gonna mismeasure quality of life. Well, I think the key result is that the quality of life differences are bigger than we expected so far, right? I mean, if you infer quality of life differences, assuming that people are perfectly mobile, there are no differences in the prices of tradable and non-tradable goods, then it seems like quality of life differences are not so big. And it doesn't look like as if, let's say, bigger cities have systematically different quality of life than smaller cities or even rural areas. And I think the key insight from our analysis is once you take into account these frictions, you start to realize that quality of life differences are big. They are even bigger than wage differences. And there is a clear quality of life premium. So in urban quality of life premium, so the more urban places are, the higher the quality of life is, which makes intuitive sense. I mean, in bigger cities, you have bars, restaurants, cultural amenities, all these things. And usually a big city also is a good place, like Berlin has plenty of rivers and parks and forests right out of that, makes Berlin attractive, and therefore Berlin has so many inhabitants, right? If you don't take that into account, then you vastly underestimate the importance of quality of life.
Coming to some clear examples. So, for example, Munich and Hamburg have always been the most attractive, or come out as the most attractive places in our ranking, and Berlin as a third or fourth place. But there has been some changing of ranking over the last years. But clearly what we do see is that places which have more people tend to do higher on our ranking than places with less people on average, I would say.
And especially Berlin actually comes out stronger, right? Than the conventional. Berlin climbs about four ranks or something, and it's kind of catching up with Hamburg and Munich. Good news for people in Berlin.
Yeah, so maybe policymakers want to think also about how to make a city more attractive if they want to, attract more people to a place, right? So you can think about policies fighting pollution, fighting crime, making cities more aesthetic, thinking about city architecture and so on. So there's many policies that come into mind, making a city more attractive, and giving our new ranking and the fact that we find that quality of life plays a bigger role than previously thought, we think that these policies should be even more at the forefront of policy making than they have been previously, I would say.
I mean, it's hard to tell, which one to prioritize, but I think that they need to be hand in glove, right? I think what is intuitive, right? I mean, it's not enough just to make a city a very attractive place for firms. You also need to make sure that these firms get the employees that need to carry out their activities, right? So when you start thinking about how can we revitalize areas, how can we make sure that regions that are struggling, how can we turn around their fortunes, we need to make sure that firms want to be in those places, but also we need to make these places attractive places to live, so that not just the people have to follow the jobs, but eventually maybe even the jobs can follow the people, right?